Welcome to Thoughts and Theories. Imagine trying to deceive the most paranoid man in history, a man who trusted no one, who built an empire on fear and surveillance, who saw betrayal everywhere. Now, imagine convincing that man, Adolf Hitler, that an entire army existed when it didn't steer in a T. An army made of nothing more than illusions, inflatable tanks, fake radio chatter, and a handful of daring artists and spies. This is not a movie plot. This is history. During World War II, when the Allies were preparing for the invasion of Nazi-occupied Europe, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Hitler knew an invasion was coming. He just didn't know where, and the Allies decided to use that uncertainty as a weapon. Their mission wasn't to destroy, but to deceive. At the center of this extraordinary operation was a man named Juan Pujol García, a Spanish double agent who managed to fool Hitler himself, and in doing so, saved thousands of lives. His codename was Garbo, a name chosen because, like the actress Greta Garbo, he could play any role and make it believable. Juan Pujol wasn't a trained spy. He was, in many ways, an ordinary man with extraordinary imagination. Before the war, he tried to join both the Allies and the Axis. Neither trusted him. So he decided to create his own spy network from scratch. He began sending false information to the Germans from Lisbon, pretending to have a network of agents across Britain. But here's the astonishing part. Those agents didn't exist. They were all invented by him. Entire personalities, habits, and stories, all created in his mind. The Germans loved him. They believed every word he said, and soon British intelligence realized that this eccentric Spaniard was doing their job for them. They officially recruited him as a double agent. Together, they built one of the greatest deception operations in history. It all led to one of the most pivotal moments of the 20th century. D-Day, June 6, 1944. The Allied invasion of Normandy. But to make that invasion successful, the Allies had to make Hitler believe the attack would come somewhere else. So, Operation Fortitude was born. Operation Fortitude was a masterpiece of illusion. Its goal was simple: convince Hitler that the real invasion would happen not in Normandy, but in Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point between Britain and France. The Allies created an entire fake army called the 1st U.S. Army Group, supposedly led by General George S. Patton, a man Hitler deeply respected and feared. This phantom army had everything, except soldiers. There were inflatable tanks, wooden planes, dummy landing craft, and fake radio signals bouncing back and forth to simulate real troop movements. Even reconnaissance photos taken by the Germans showed what looked like a massive invasion force ready to strike. But the deception wouldn't have worked without human intelligence, the believable storytelling that tied everything together. And that's where Garbo came in. He fed the Germans a steady stream of believable lies, mixing truth with fiction so skillfully that they couldn't tell the difference. He reported troop movements, supply routes, and even weather conditions. All fake, but consistent with the grand illusion. When D-Day finally came, and the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy, Hitler refused to send reinforcements, because he believed, thanks to Garbo, that the Normandy attack was just a diversion. He was waiting for the real invasion at Calais. By the time he realized the truth, it was too late. The Allies had already secured a foothold in France, changing the course of the war forever. The scale of this deception raises a fascinating question about human psychology. Why do even the most intelligent or paranoid people fall for lies when they are dressed as truth? Hitler prided himself on his ability to see through deceit. Yet he became the ultimate victim of it. Part of the reason lies in something deeper than strategy. It's in human nature. We tend to believe what fits our expectations. Hitler wanted to believe that the Allies would strike where he thought they were strongest. His own biases became the weapon used against him. In philosophy, this is a form of confirmation bias, our tendency to see what we already believe to be true. And that's what Garbo exploited brilliantly. The success of Operation Fortitude wasn't just a military trick, it was a psychological masterpiece. It showed that wars aren't only won with bullets and bombs, but with ideas, illusions, and understanding how the human mind works. In a way, it's proof that imagination can be more powerful than force. What makes Juan Pujol's story even more remarkable is what happened after the war. The Germans believed he was one of their greatest spies. They even awarded him the Iron Cross, one of their highest military honors. Meanwhile, the British gave him the MBE, the most excellent order of the British Empire. He became perhaps the only man in history to receive top honors from both sides of the same war. But Garbo wasn't motivated by fame or money. He was driven by something strangely idealistic. He hated tyranny and wanted to do something meaningful. It's ironic. A man who made his mark through lies was driven by a sense of moral truth. After the war, he disappeared. Everyone thought he was dead. For decades, no one knew what happened to him. Until 1984, when a journalist discovered him living quietly in Venezuela, having faked his own death years earlier. He had simply walked away from history, the same way he had once rewritten it. Garbo's story isn't just about espionage. It's a lesson in perception, in the limits of human certainty. It tells us that power doesn't protect you from deception. In fact, it can make you more vulnerable to it. Because the more power one has, the fewer people there are who dare to question their assumptions. Hitler's downfall was not just military. It was intellectual. He lost because he couldn't imagine that he could be fooled. And there's a strange beauty in that. That one man, without an army, without weapons, could outsmart an empire built on fear and control. It reminds us that truth and falsehood are not absolute. They are tools, shaped by those who know how to use them. In philosophy, there's a question that echoes here. Is a lie still a lie if it saves lives? Garbo's lies saved thousands. They ended up shortening the war. In his case, deception became a form of morality. It's a paradox that sometimes the good requires illusion, that sometimes the truth is best served by those who know how to bend it. The fake armies of Operation Fortitude never fired a single shot, yet they created an impact greater than many real battles. Their success depended not on technology, but on imagination, patience, and understanding human weakness. The story of Garbo and the fake armies is also a mirror held up to our own world. Today, wars are fought not just on battlefields but in the mind, through propaganda, misinformation, and digital illusions. The same principles that fooled Hitler now play out every day on screens, in politics, and in the media. The difference is that now, we are all both the deceivers and the deceived. In the end, the greatest weapon in history wasn't a bomb or a gun, it was belief. And the man who understood that best wasn't a general or a politician, but a quiet, untrained spy who saw the power of a well-told story. Juan Pujol García died in 1988, but his legend remains one of the most extraordinary examples of how fragile our sense of reality can be. He showed that truth is not always what's real, but what we can make others believe is real. And perhaps that's both inspiring and terrifying. Because if one man could reshape history with fake armies and imaginary agents, it reminds us that our world, our beliefs, our politics, even our identities, are only as solid as the stories we choose to trust. And that's the strange, haunting legacy of the spy who fooled Hitler,